right, sweet. Thank you so much. Sweet. All right, so a little technical difficulty there at the beginning, but yeah, we're all good now. So, as I was saying, my name is Bryan Bentley. This is the Wednesday modeling stream. Could be morning, could be night. Who knows, depending on where you are. It's nighttime for me, so this is nice. This is how I wind down my day. Yeah, so now, so what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, I'm working on this environment. And, yeah, so this is where I kind of left off last time. I did a little bit of work over here for my vines. Nothing too major, just a teensy little bit of optimization. Nothing too major. So, what I want to do is I want to kind of bring this thing into some sort of, bring this into alignment and get my scales correct. So, generally what I do, if I'm going to try to make something real world scale, I really like in Houdini, there's this geometry called Tommy. So let's don't need that leaves and twigs. So there's this test geometry called Tommy. And if I come in here and I say hide other objects, so it's Tommy. And if I look at him from the front view, so we can see that Tommy is just under 2 meters tall. So he's just under 6 foot. So he's probably like this looks like he's about 5'11", 5'12". So he's about the size of like a regular size person. So whenever I'm doing stuff and I want to try to make stuff look big or small or match stuff to scale, I usually throw a Tommy in there just so I can see how big everything is. So now if we look, so this head is quite large here, right? Which is what I want, but my grass is way too big. Like this grass is like the size of small trees. So I'm gonna have to do that. And plus too, the other thing is I'm going to need a lot more grass. Like this is like really, really, really sparse. So I have like a lot of grass around the head, and it's really kind of like little bits and pieces of grass out here. I think I want to make this look a little bit more dense. I also need some different types of grasses. Generally, when you have like big overgrown stuff, you have a bunch of different types of plants kind of growing and vying for the same spot. So we're gonna work on that as well. And then what else do I want to do? Maybe I'll add a little bit of. I have enough vines, so I don't think I really need any more vines. I might want to add some. Actually, I don't really need much variation on these. I might push them off. Try to push them off of this surface just a little bit, because if we look, like these vines, they're like clipping through because they're like directly on top of the geometry here. So we're gonna work on ways to do that and push all that stuff away. So just like refinement stuff today, and maybe a little bit of extra work. So the main thing I want to work on today is this grass, like getting this grass to look good. I might switch from polygonal grass to just curve-based grass, because you can render curves directly in Houdini as strips, and that saved a little bit of viewport and processing time, so I may do that. If I did want to take this out to a game engine, then these would indeed have to be polygon strips of grass, or polygons with alpha map on it. We might get to that as well. So that's what I wanted to go over today. So this is my scene. So I'm going to pop in here and double click. So let's work on this grass overall. This to do its thing. Okay. So I think I colored my grass. That's my grass and my vines. This is my leaves. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to put some sticky notes. We'll call that's inlib outleaf bundle. Yeah, outleaf bundle there. And so that's my vines, and I think my grass is down here. Yeah, my grass is down here. So I'm going to turn on ghost other objects just so I can see how tall Tommy actually is. So before I do scatter, let's look at, yeah, this is my single blade of grass here. And I think, yeah. All right. So I'm going to actually move Tommy back to the center of the world. So this single blade of grass is gigantic. It's like almost half of it. It's almost like a 3 foot tall blade of grass. So let's bring that back down so I can see it. I'm going to call this, so I'm going to keep my coloring scheme going here. So I'm going to make this light green for grass, and then I'll make that light green for grass. And actually, I don't want those textures on Tommy either, because I find them distracting. So I'm going to turn off clothing and textures. So it's just this naked gray man in a field. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'll take my overall grass here, and I'm going to bring that down. And I still want it to look pretty overgrown. I just don't want it to be like Jurassic Park size grass. So I'm going to take this grass down to about high calf level, about there. So that's still pretty tall grass. Like if you were walking through a field and the grass was like up to your calves, that'd be some pretty big grass. Okay, I'll do is, let's take the sweep, and I'm going to take my overall width. I'm going to bring that down as well. So I may, actually, you know what? What I'm going to do, just to save some time, I'm going to put a switch in here. And so this switch will allow me to choose if I want to use the geometry grass or if I just want to use just the curve here. So I'm going to say switch. Put a switch here. Let's plug that in there. Plug that in there. So if I have it on 0, it's going to use the line, and if I have it on 1, it'll use the whole grass. So now if I come into here, I view this, yeah. So I can already feel in my viewport that's a lot faster and way more responsive. Okay, so that's my grass. Let's take all of this stuff here. So let's see, that's my ground. That's my head. And so if this is my grass, all this stuff, I think I want to color. I'm going to make it the same color as this copy, because that's really all this is these points here. So I'm going to make that all yellow, because that's all points that I'm going to copy to. All right, so if we go from the top, I'm making this group here to make basically to cull out grass growing underneath this guy. So I don't think I really want to do that. So basically what I think I want like density everywhere, because I was trying to like limit the density to just around this guy. Now since I'm doing like a full scene overall, I think I want this to be a little bit bigger. I might also eventually change out this ground a little bit too dark or too light. Like it looks like wet mud. I want it to look like really lush and wet, like it's gonna support a lot of life. So I think what I'm gonna do, let's see here. So this is my ground here, and let's just bypass all of this, and this is just gonna find my distance. So let's just bypass all of this stuff. I'm just gonna go straight, take my ground straight into here. Let's see what we get. And this is gonna be my scatter line. There, okay. So let's take our ground into our scatter align. I think my scatter align is looking at an inside group, so I don't want that. Let's get rid of that. Should see points. And let's get rid of this density attribute as well. Scaling. I should get a ton of points back. Okay, there we go. All right. So basically what I want is I want to make a, I really want to control the density of this overall. And this scatter align, I feel like it's a little bit overkill for what I'm doing here. So I'm just gonna do just a regular old scatter. So I can still control the regular scatter with my density. So I can say Yeah, so that's going to be my grass. And if I take and I just plug this straight in. Let's see, I have this color attribute coming in here, so let's get rid of that. That's in attributes. Plug this into here. And that's going to be, I only have points. So I'm going to get rid of my color. So that's all white. So this will just pick up the color from here. And let's see what we get here. Yeah. Okay, cool. That feels good. That feels like a field of grass to me. Might even be able to push this a little bit further. So maybe factor 10. Yeah, that feels like, ooh, that's nice. That feels like nice kind of rolling hills of grass. So now I've lost kind of all that kind of like nice stuff that I did over here to make this thing randomized. So let's go ahead and start to rebuild that stuff. So the first thing I want is I want to make sure that I don't have any grass growing inside of this guy. Okay, so I want that density value to be 0. I also want it to be a little bit more dense around this thing. I still want that. So I think what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to make 2 values. I'm going to do this in 2 passes. So the first density pass is going to be just to chop out this piece. So that's still going to be with an attribute attribute wrangle. Or sorry, that's going to be an attribute transfer. So my grass here, let's see. All right. So this is my ground. I'm going to take that attribute delete and put that way up here. And then this guy, I'm going to take this. This guy should be black. And then let's just, I think what I'll do is I'll just disconnect this stuff here, disconnect that stuff there, because I might reuse some of this. So I don't want to get rid of it completely, just kind of keep this over here in a toolbox. Okay, so there's the background, and then I'm going to take, so let's see, where's that attribute transfer? Here we go. So I'm going to slice this off. This one should be white. I'm going to slice this off. And I'm going to bring this whole chunk back over. Plug this in here. Let's see. Attributes, points. So I should have, there goes my head. All right. Cool. So I want that density to be, actually I want it to be inverted, right? So here, I want this to be, I want my density everywhere, but I want my density here. So I want to cut out the grass that's going to grow directly under this. So I can take my blend width and turn that way down. So I'm missing the inside of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to scatter points inside of this head. So I have more geometry on the inside. So let's do that. So I'm going to do a volume scatter. Scatter. What is it? Volume. Scatter. I feel scatter, 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 scatter line. Oh, okay, I'll do it the old school way. ISO offset, which should make me a fog volume. So there's my fog volume. I need to make this a little bit more dense. Doesn't have to be exact, right? So now I'm getting a representation of this head. And then what I'll do is I will scatter points inside of this. So let's say scatter. So if I scatter on a volume, it will scatter throughout that volume. Okay, so we can bring this up a little bit. Don't do that many. That should do the trick. Okay, so let's grab this volume scatter. So all those points are black. And now I should get, yeah, there we go. So I'm getting a more solid solid hole inside of this guy. Now my ground is pretty low res, so. Okay. So there's my density. So in my scatter, I can say, yeah, let's do that. So let's take this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert my color into density. So I'm going to say attribute expression. This is going to be custom. Call this density. And this will be a float. And this will just be at cd.x. Okay, so now I should have, let's turn my, split this top bottom. Let's grab a geometry spreadsheet. So here I have, here. So that's in points. Should see density. There's density, so I have density of 0 and 1. Perfect. Great. So now I can let's move this attribute delete down here. So I want to get rid of that color. I'm just moving this thing around. And now, and if I plug this into my scatter, I should get a hole right in the center where that head was. I need to tell this to scatter by density. So it should push those guys out from where it is. Scattering a lot of points here, so it's taking a little bit. There we go. So now this looks a little bit more organic than that hard kind of square that I had to begin with. And so just for speed, I'm going to drop this a little bit. Maybe put this at 200,000. Maybe 500,000. Yeah, that's feeling pretty good. Okay. So that's that. So that's my first type of scatter. Now, like I said, I want my density to be a little bit denser, like around the head, right? So my density is going to cap at 1, right? So I want the entirety of the density to be about 0.5, and then I want it to go up to 1 as it gets to closer to the head. So what I can do is I can use that same kind of distance algorithm that I used over here to find my distance, and I can use that for density and scale as well. So basically what I did before as a review is I took the centroid of that head, right? So I took, where's my epic pen? So basically what I did is I took and I created a point that was at the center of that head. And then what I did is I found the length between that point and every other point. And then I normalized it. So there's one point that's the farthest away, and then there's maybe the point that's like the closest. So this point, by normalizing that, becomes 0 or 1, doesn't really matter, and this closest point becomes 1. So I can have a ramp that goes up and down, right? So what I want to do is I want that ramp to be like 1, to cap out at 1, and then so what it'll be is at 0 I can remap this to like 0.5 and and 1. So there'll be less dense out here, and it'll gradually get closer, and it'll get bigger as we do that. So I can use that multiple times to add to my density. Yeah, that's my plan. That's my plan. All right. So to do that, instead of transferring black and white, I'm going to transfer here. I'm going to do 0.5. So this should be, V should be 0.5. And that should all recalculate. So you should see this density kind of drop a little bit, I think. Yeah, so that's 0.5. If I put this really low, let's put this really low to like that color. Yeah, so I don't think I'm seeing anything because I don't have any variation in my density. So we'll deal with that in a minute. So let's put this back to 0.5. So my density here is about half, and this is 1. So if I put something that's a little bit higher, so basically what I want is I want something around like 0.5 here, and I want to add that to this overall kind of field. Okay, so we can do that. I'm going to do that. So this is my scatter up here. So my attribute transfer there. And that's my density expression and my delete attribute. So I'm basically going to do everything between this and this. So at the very last minute, I think what I'll do is I'll get rid of my color, because I may be using colors to build this up. This is also might be my with someone's what time someone streams at work. Haha. Cool. Yeah, it's really fun to make really overgrown and old stuff. And there's tons of tutorials out there on how to do this in Unreal. And you could take a lot of these ideas, and build them in Unreal. But a lot of the tutorials I've seen on Unreal is like you're actually like painting on all your foliage. Like you don't get like kind of like this node-based approach. Throat is really dry today. All right, so I think what I'm going to do is I will take. Let's move this over here. And so I'm going to go grab that extract centroid, and this is that find distance, and I think this is our normalization, yeah. So this finds a max distance, and this finds a min distance, and then what this point wrangle does is it gives me, I'm basically taking and remapping that whole value. So I'm going to take all this, and I'm going to cut this part off. And actually, you know what I can do, what I might be able to do, let's try some of the newer stuff. Let's try a mask by occlusion, mask by feature, mask along geometry, mask from geometry. Let's see here. Reference geometry, geometry for attributes. So let's look at what this one does. This is one of the newer kind of nodes that I'm trying to explore a little bit more. I think there's definitely a node in here where you can feed it geometry and it will mask based on that geometry. So let's see. This node can be used to measure the distance to a reference geometry, which is useful for masking operations based on distance. That could work. So let's see. Usually I want this to go into here, and this to... Actually, I'm going to take that scattered stuff. Let's take that scatter, plug that in there. Okay, so there's my reference geometry. And let's view our mask. And let's see, reference group type, distance outside of geometry, distance inside of geometry, distance from surface. Let's try bringing in just the head. Yeah, there we go. So outside geometry, distance from surface. So perhaps I can grow this. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Cool. So now I have this mask, right? So I have this mask and I can grow it out. So what I want to do, I have this mask attribute. So I have zeros and ones, and there's probably a little bit of transition in there, right? So I have this mask, and I have my density in here as well. So I want to add this data. I want to add that mask to my density. So my density all out here will still be 0.5, and then it'll be 0.5 plus whatever this is, and then it'll eventually go up to 1. So yeah, I think that's going to work. That's going to work pretty well. Oh yeah, Houdini does particles like nobody else. Like I mean, I can't really speak for that. I love the way that Houdini's particles work, but it's really not about the software, right? It's not like which software is better. It's mostly what software do you have available to you. I know 3D Studio Max and Thinking Particles. I know a lot of people really, really love those particle systems. I've even seen people do some pretty amazing stuff with Maya with their particle system. So it's really just about learning how particles work, how forces work, observing nature, because that's what you're really trying to do with particles is like replicate nature, whether it be like floating dust motes or embers or whatever. It's more about, observation than anything. So you observe what you want to replicate, and then you go into whatever tool is available to you, whatever tool you're working with, and you try to figure out like, okay, are these particles, are they moving quickly? Are they moving slowly? Is there a lot of air drag? Is there a lot of swirl? What happens when they hit something? Do they stick to it, or do they slide off, or do they die? Well, these are the type of things that you need to be asking yourself when you're asking like, how these things should work, or what's a better thing. I really don't like those type of conversations where it's like, oh, this thing is better than that thing, or that thing is better than that thing. They're all pretty much doing the same stuff. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. So this is my mask, and I have my my density here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm actually going. Do I want to do this? Oh, I can do this in a VOP. I'm going to do this in an attribute VOP. So I also have density here. So I'm gonna this in an attribute VOP. I usually do this in a point wrangle with code, but like I said, always want to try new stuff. So I have this guy's gonna come in here, and I'm gonna do this. So now I have my mask and my density being shown. So I turn that off. So this gray is my density. So I'm gonna pop in here, and I'm gonna do 2 bind attributes. So I'm going to do bind, and this is going to be density, and the other one is going to be mask. So if I just take mask and plug it into color, I should see that same thing here. And then my density, if I plug that into color, I should see the same thing here. So, right, I have these two things. So I can just straight up add these together, but then we'll see a problem. I'm basically going to fill in this hole in the middle. So if I just do an add, and I take input 1, density, input 2, mask, take that sum, put it in CD. So that's what I'm getting. Like, this is nice, right? This is nice, but I want that hole. I still need that hole in there. So what I'll do is, actually, now that I think about this, I am gonna come back, and this is generally how I work. Like, there's this conception that like people who do this stuff all the time, you do A, then B, then C, then D. like that's not it. Like you really, it's a lot of like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So I think what I want is I still want this to be 1. Yeah, I still want this to be 1 and this to be 0, because when I come into here now, let's see. Right, so now what I can do is if I plug this guy back in to CD, right, this should be all, this is all white, black and white. So what I can do is I can take this result and multiply it by this guy, because this is like a big black hole. So this will like punch out that middle spot. So I'm going to do a multiply. And then we'll plug this into CD. So now I have this bright spot around the outside. Now, if I look at my color now is almost at 2, right? Because I'm adding these two things together. So I don't want that. I would still want my density to go between 0 and 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a fit in here. So between 0 and 1. So let's do that. Let's do a fit. We'll do a fit range. And my source minimum is going to be 0. My source maximum is going to be 2. My output minimum is going to be 0, and my output maximum is going to be 1. So products, let's see, that's going to go in value, and this is going to go into shift. It's going to go into color. You should see, yeah. So that punches down. So now it's 0.5 everywhere around here, right? And then it's, you know, it's gray everywhere else. So instead of plugging this into color, which I don't want, I am going to bind export this back out to density. So tab, bind, export. This is going to be density. So now I have this variation, this nice variation in my density. Okay, so let's pop back out here. So this is add density. And we can plug, let's plug that in my attribute delete here. And then if we look at my scatter, with that compute. Yeah, so I'm getting a little bit more density around the edge here. So there's so many points, it's probably hard to see. Let's do 500. Density. Oh, I spelled that wrong. That's why. Let's do density. The worst speller on the planet. Ooh, nope. Density, 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 density. And here. Should start to see these start to bunch up around the corner. Let's take and let's go and look at this mask. Let's bring this radius even bigger. Yeah, so we're getting a little bit more density in here. So as I pull out, you can kind of see it. It's getting a little bit more scattered in there. So what I can do is let's take, and in this add density, let's start to, we can knock down our overall density before we add it into here. So I'm just going to put a multiply in here. I'll put a constant here. Yeah, there we go. So as I bring this up, I should be getting a little bit more spots, but it's still relatively more dense around the head. Yeah, so now what I'll do is, let's put that to 0.5. So this is basically what I had before. So 0.5, and then it hits, and it starts to go up to 1, and then it goes back down to 0 down here. Yeah, it is kind of similar to weight painting, telling particles where and where not to be. If you're coming from Blender, you could think about this as like a really advanced vertex group with weights in it. Yeah. Cool. So there's my scene. There's my new density here. Add density. This deletes the color. This scatters my points, and then I should see. Yeah, so I'm getting more density in my little grass strands here overall. So I can bring this now up to, let's put that back up to 5,000 or 50,000. Let's do maybe 100,000. That might be too much. Oh no, that feels pretty good. So I come back, yeah, so this is like really dense around there. So I can now, going back up to here, and you can see it's just back and forth and back and forth. I can start to bring that center line down a bit. Yeah. Cool. So now, now what I want to do is I want to vary this density because it's very, very even. Like I have like these little patches here, but I still want to vary some density. I'm probably going to do that in here as well. So I'm going to come into my add density, and I'll use a noise for this. So let's view this guy. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this attribute delete yet again. Put it right after this guy. So I'm going to keep overriding that noise. So what I'll do now is I'm going to take a, don't want to use noise here. I'm going to use noise. I'm going to use anti-alias noise. It's a good all-purpose noise to use. And I'm going to plug in my position here. And I'll take my noise and plug that into C so I can see what's going on. All right, cool. So I want pretty big undulations for this. So my frequency is going to come down. And my roughness is going to come down. So I just want patches. Let's try simplex. Yeah, simplex is a little bit faster. Cool. So I have this, and this goes between 0 and 1, I believe. So let's make sure. Actually, it looks like my noise is going between, it's going into the negative. So I'm pretty sure that the anti-alias noise goes between -1 and 1. Let's check. Let's see. -0.5 and 5. So I'm going to refit this between -0.5 and 5 to go between that and 0 to 1. So we're going to do another fit with this guy. So I'm going to do fit range, plug that into there. So this is going to go, source min is -0.5. Source max is 0.5. So now I get like a much nicer distribution of everything. So if I want my output max to be here, or my output max to be there. All right, so I'm just going to take, and I'm going to multiply this by just the, I know this goes between 0 and 1, so I'm going to go ahead and just multiply that after, let's say, my fit here. Yeah, because I know all this goes between 0 and 1 now, and this is going to go between 0 and 1, and so I can multiply those two things together. So now I've just kind of broken up that uniformity of that density across the board. So instead of plugging that into color, I will route that into density now. come back and I look at my scatter, so now I got, yeah, there we go. So now I'm getting some patches, some really high patches and some really low patches. So if I come back into here and I say, let's take this fit and start to pull this down, should see some more kind of like bald patches start to show up in here. Yeah, there we go. Let's go back and view this. I'll just do a preview on density. Should be able to see that. Yeah, so there's my density. I really don't like the like that black and white or the red to yellow. So I'm gonna do black body, like grayscale. There we go. I like that. So if we look at my density here, so I'm starting to get some density here in the middle. Why is that? Let's see, my density max is 1, 0. Let's plug that into. Let's plug this directly into density. Yeah, so there's that. And then here's this, which should give me see, 0. And this comes in here. All right. So what I'll do now is I still need this kind of density for a mask as well. So I think what I'll do, let's move some of this around. So I'm using this density. So this is multiplying. This is my mask. So I want to do this last. Like I want to construct all this density and then I want to punch this hole out in the. Is there a tutorial studies you recommend for foliage? Things that you're currently doing? I don't know. I didn't really watch a tutorial to do this. I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go along, just using the principles I already know. Let me think about that while I do the rest of this, and I'll get back to you on that. Okay. So I have my noise here. So this is my fit noise. So if I plug this directly into density, I will get that. So that's good. So that's my fit noise. If I take my let's take my mask here and we plug that into density, we get that. So this should be, yeah, so 0, 0 and 1 should go between 0 and 1. Yeah, so there's my densities of 0. Okay, so that's 0 to 1. And then I also have my regular density here, which should have a black hole in the middle of it. And that's all 0 to 1. So this density, this is actually my density mask. So I'm going to do everything with everything else, and then I will multiply everything by this thing. Yeah, that'll work. That should work. It's going to be like a Photoshop layer mask. So let's chop all this stuff away, and we'll just back up a little bit. So I'm going to take this guy, this fit, and I'm going to multiply it by this mask. Plug that into there, and I should see this guy should go between 0 and 1, this mask, and this guy goes between 0 and 1. Should multiply. 3D input 1D noise. Why is this multiply not showing up? Let me save this real quick. And let's change this visualization of density. Yeah, so I'm not getting my noise in here for some reason now. Let's see. Let's plug this into here. Yeah, there's my noise. So density goes between 0.2. So very low value and a very high value. And then this guy should have actually, let's turn this into just numbers marker. Cool. There we go. Right, so this is my mass. So this is pretty high. It's feeling pretty good. And then the rest of this is 0. And then my density here, I'm not really sure why this isn't multiplying properly. Let's look at this. This is about 0.6, 0.5, 4. Yeah, that should multiply just fine. Ah, that's why. Okay. My mask here is only numbers in here. So I need to invert my mask. So all these zeros are killing my noise. So that's fine. I can do a complement, which is a 1 minus x. Let's plug that into there. And this into my density. There we go. So now all these are 1s, and all these are starting to go to 0. So let's plug that guy into here. And that guy into there. There we go. Now we're getting some numbers. Color. Yeah, there we go. Cool. All right, so there's my mask. So I have my... take this fit now, and I should be able to bring in, that's my upward bounds. Let's bring, it's my lower bounds, so I can bring this guy up. Negative 0.25. So I'm getting, I want to get some bigger kind of bald patches in here as well. I can also change that with the frequency. Of the noise. Yeah, there we go. So now, let's see. It's my mask, and then, yeah. So I don't need this stuff anymore. And I'll take this density now. If we remember that density is just basically all 1s with a black hole in the middle. So I'll take that, and I'll just run this into the last multiply. And plug that in there. There we go. So now we have some big patches of density. Maybe those are a little bit too big. So let's go back up and come down here and see what that looks like. Yeah, that's good. I feel like I went a little bit too far on my patchiness. So I can play with this all day. So let's just do this. Let's take that back down to negative 0.5. That should bring me back maybe 4. 3. 3 is too far. 4. Yeah. And then I do want this frequency to... don't want it too high. Also, it just becomes... yeah, I think that's good. I like that. Yeah, so now I have like these kind of like patches of grass. Not sure what the nodes are being used that haven't anything that's going. Okay, cool. So what I did, so if we remember, so I just added a bit together, like basically like 3 fields. So if I draw this out, I know that could have been a little bit confusing, but sometimes these things happen. So I basically have 3 fields. So I have this field, and this field. So my first field was the density. So that was a hole in the middle. So all of this out here is 1, value of 1, and all this out here is a 0. So that's the first one. That's just the density that I built with the through the masking and the color. The next one I did was my kind of like my ramp. So we could think about this one as how I'll draw this. So we can think of this as this. So it goes from 0 out here, and then it ramps up into the middle into 1. So this is mask. And then this last one is just noise. And this one will be like, you can think about it like a patch. Like this will be a little bit of 0, this is a little bit of 1, this is a little bit of 0, and this is a little bit of 1. So that's my noise. So when you multiply these three things together, if I multiply these two together, wherever this is 0, this is going to punch holes in this guy. So this all is going to be 0 here. This all is going to stay 1, except for where this is 0, so that'll be 0. So it's basically punching these two together. And then I multiply this guy, and this is all 1, so whatever is here is going to stay. And then here in the middle, where this 0 is, that's just going to kind of lawnmower that whole middle spot. So that's what happened. And that's what I'm doing. If you really want to know how noises and multiplying noises work, there is a great video by Ari Danish called Understanding Noise in Houdini, and it like changed my life. For real. Okay, so now, the next thing I want to do is I want to randomize these guys' rotation like I did before. Because, like, they're all, you can see they're all bending in exactly the same way. So I can take this bend, and I can kind of exacerbate the problem. So let's just... So you can see how they're all bending in exactly the same way, which is not what I want. Grass doesn't do that, right? It bends all in all different directions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a quatrain. So remember that a quatrain is a vector that has a rotation around it, like that. So my vector is always going to be y, and then my rotation is going to be, I want it to be randomized based on, randomized for each point. So I can do this all in, I'll do this in another point VOP, because I need to practice with point VOPs, and the best way to do it. So that's add density, or I should call this like make add density. Let's call this modify density. Modify density. All right, so I'm going to do another one of these. So I'm going to say attribute VOP. I'm going to plug this in, and this one will be make orient. Okay, so let's come down here. And for this, I think what I want is, so I have my point number. Right, so I hover over this, it's like point number. So I can make something out of that. And so what I want to do is I want to make a quatrainian. So this takes an angle and a vector. So my vector, I want to be pointing straight up in the air, because my grass, I mean, I could, you know, vary the grass, but for the most part, I just want it to be pointing straight up in the air. So if I take this and I output this to an attribute called orient, we should see an orient pop up here. So let's do that. So let's do bind export And so let's plug, this is going to be a orient. This is going to be float 4, and I'm going to plug this in here. So now we have this orient, right? So it's X, Y, Z. Yeah, here, here, here. Okay? So that's my axis, and then my angle, if I start to change my angle, you should see this turn. So I can view this. So I have this orient. I'm going to view that. Why is this viewing? I'm not viewing my scatter. Ah, here we go. So my scatter should come into here. I think I want this after my scatter. I do want this after my scatter. So let's unplug that, plug that in there. So I want this to do this on my scatter points, not on my density. So let's view my orient there. So let's turn off density and turn on orient. Let's make those a little bit smaller. Okay, so let's pop into here. And if we look at our angle, and as we turn this, should see all these orients turn. Okay. Ooh, give me 1 second. I think there is somebody at my door. Give me one second. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. All sorts of mysteries happening today. Somebody came to my door and they were at the wrong spot. Okay, so where was I? Okay, orients. So I want to be able to control this per point. So what I can do is I can take my point number. So let's see, where is it? Point number. And so I want a random value between 0 and 1 based on my point number. So that I can just put down a random. And I'll plug my point number. Where is it? Point number, and I'll plug that in random. So this will give me a value between 0 and 1. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to plug that into my angle. You should see, yeah, so now all these guys are pointed in roughly different directions. Now, the problem is that this is going between 0 and 1. And this angle, most angles in CG aren't degrees, is radians, right? So 360 degrees is 2 pi radians. So I want to fit this. I want to use another fit. That fit is like the Swiss Army knife of CG. So I'm going to take this random and I'll put it in my value. And this goes between 0 to 1. And I want this, my destination max, to be 2 pi. So I think I can get pi. Math. Power. Divide. I could have swore there was pi in here. So what I could do is I can convert this angle to radians. So I can type in radians. Radians to degrees, degrees to radians. Perfect. So this will allow me to work in a little bit more kind of user-friendly fashion. So I can go, instead of 0 to 1, I can go 0 to 360. So this is degrees. And so I can take that and I can plug degrees and then I'll spit out radians. And then that will go into there. So now They have free reign to spin however they want. So if I come back out to my scene and I come to my copy now my grass is all, now it's starting to look like grass, right? Because they're all kind of facing different directions. Cool. And if I come into my overall, like everything, let that cook 4 minutes. So that's giving me everything. So I feel like this is growing. This is starting to grow a little bit too, still a little bit too far away from everything. But I can fix that offline. Like, you've seen me fiddle with this enough, and I think I want these to be a little bit bigger. Actually, let me go back out and let's take Tommy and pull him forward so I can actually see where he is, because I always get confused on like how big things should be. So I'm gonna take Tommy. I'm just gonna scoot him forward so I can see him. So the other thing I'm going to do with this is you can see that like my computer's really struggling. It's because I'm not packing any of my instances, right? So or any of my copies, right? This is all actual geometry. So what I want to do is I'm going to do what's called packing. So packing is Houdini's version of instancing. It saves a lot of geometry and it saves a lot of memory. So my end scene. Here, I'm going to say pack an instance. So it should give me a little bit back. And then also up here, I think when I'm doing this copy to points, I'm also going to pack an instance. These guys. So just trying to squeeze every little bit of computing power out of this that I can. Okay. This is why it's always good to get like a full view of what you're doing. Okay. I still feel like that density is being affected. I feel like this is being chopped away. I want this to be closer. Let's take and I'm gonna do that. Okay. So see this again. It's my mask there. So it goes 0 to 1. And up here is my yeah. So modify density. So I'm bringing in my noise. I'm taking my bind, my mask. So it should have been 1 around here and 0 everywhere else. So if I plug my mask in my color, let's view this. This is very hard to do, and this is really hard to do and talk at the same time. Okay, so this is all 1, this is all 0. Okay. All right, that's what's happening. That is what's happening. So I'm gonna take this. I want to add my mask to my noise. That is where my flaw in logic was. So I don't think I need this complement anymore. And what I'll do is I'll do an add here. These two together. I'll fit this So this goes from 2. So if I plug that in, I should get... There we go. That's what I want. And then this is going to now multiply that. And that's going to go into that guy. That punches out the hole. And then this goes into here. There we go. I believe that should do it. There's my scatter. And there's my copy. Gorgeous. Much better. Much better. That's more what I wanted. Yeah. That looks way better. So I'm getting this tight bundle of stuff, and then it kind of just turns into noise out here. Sweet. So now I can start to work on my scale, and I'm going to use the exact same idea. So that's why I really like having this mask that's just persistent. So I can do the same thing. So here, after my scatter, so that's going to be my make orient, and I'm going to do another one. So this is just turning into a attribute VOP lesson. Not what I was expecting, or not what I was planning on, but hey, sometimes things go differently than what you expect. So I'm just going to do another attribute VOP. I'm going to plug this in, and this will be make P scale. Let me save this before something crashes. All right, so this is make P scale. So I'm basically going to do the same thing. So I'm going to have a P scale that is based on that distance. And then I'm going to add that to a mask. So an overall P scale. So I'm going to add, yeah, that'll work. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to make an import and export. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to make a constant. Just to make sure this is working, constant. And let me go back to just my grasses. So I don't have to calculate all that stuff. And then I'm going to make a bind export to P scale. Scale. Okay, and if I plug this in here, so this guy is 0, so if I put this to 1, I'm almost like I'm growing the grass. So if I make this 2, my grass is going to get twice as tall. If I make it 3, it's going to get even taller. Okay, so I want tall grass by this guy. Now you can really see that density with that super tall grass in there. Now, so what I want is I want my tall grass close to this guy, and then I want it to go down to basically its normal height. And I might throw some noise on top of that as well. So I kind of did this last time, but this is a way to do this in VOPs instead of in Wrangles. So this is my so what I want to do is I'm going to import my mask. So bind. This is going to be mask. So if I just take that mask and I plug it in to P scale, we should see, right? This is 1, and then it fades off to 0. Okay, so let's just add these two together like I did before. So I'm going to say add. And then we plug this in here. So you can see here is a little bit taller than out there. So what I can do, because this guy goes between 0 and 1, because my mask goes between 0 and 1, I can just multiply this by a value, and then it'll go between 0 and however tall I want this grass to be. This should be 1. So I'm going to do another constant. And we'll say this is 3. And I'm going to do a multiply. So that guy by this guy. So now all that is a little bit taller. Okay, so now I just got like this kind of like straight mound in here. So now what I want to do is, and maybe I want these to be maybe like 2. And so I'm going to knock some of these down with some noise. So I'm going to multiply this whole kind of thing by another anti-alias noise. So maybe we'll try turbulent noise. I like to try different types of noises to do different things. But I always have to look up what we call their domain. Like, where does it go? What's its lowest value and what's its highest value? Let's see. Original Perlin goes from -1 to 1. Sparse convolution, alligator, simplex. What's the samples on the simple mesh? This results on less rigid artifacts that also use. Let's just use Perlin noise. Perlin noise goes from -1 and 1. So I'm going to take the position, and I'm going to take my noise, and I'm running that through yet another fit. So this noise goes between -1 and 1, and I want it to spit out between 1 and 1. So if I plug this into color, let's see what this is hooked up to, like P scale. Let's go -1, 1, 0 to 1. Let's go ahead and multiply that by our current P scale. So we're getting some variation, but not enough. Still looking way too, I'd say manicured. So let's go back to that anti-alias noise. I like the anti-alias noise. So tab a noise, position, value. And this goes between -0.5 and 0.5. And we can sharpen this up if we start to bring this down. So that's my overall P scale. I can also do this outside of here. I feel like this is trying to do too much. I can do a attribute noise. I can call this P scale. And we can say, instead of positive, I can say I can say positive, and I can say operation, I can say add. If I plug that in, I should get, yeah, there we go. Well, there's some more variation. So I can take my element size, make that a little bigger. Take my amplitude, make that a little bigger. So yeah. Still feel like it's getting a little bit too tall overall. But yeah, I'm liking where that is. I'm liking where that works. So it's like this really tall grass close to it, and then really kind of just like normal kind of overgrown grass everywhere. Cool. Like that. I like where I'm liking where this is a lot more than where it was before. So if I come down and view everything again, turn off the templates. Yeah, cool. I like that. All right, so we got our grass kind of better sorted. Kind of reminds me of Gladiator now. I think it's still really tall, like it's about chest height, but this is supposed to be really, really overgrown. So as you walk up to it, it'll get like, and also like I'm thinking like if this is in a rainforest, rain is going to collect on this thing and it's all going to kind of pool around this head. So you're going to have taller blades of grass next to like statues and things like that. And I'll probably add some large kind of like boulders and stuff around here as well. And as long as they get merged in here with this thing, that radius will still work. Cool. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to get these vines off of the head a little bit. Like they're really small, but I'm losing half of them inside of the head. So that is going to be way up here, and I believe that is here. Yeah. So that's these little vines here. And that's going to be before I put this sweep in. So I might do the same thing with this sweep to pick whether I just want to use just the curves or the vines and the curves. So I'll do that as well. Okay, so now this is, I can choose whether I want to use my sweep or not. That sweep is taking up a lot of, like, this is a lot of geometry, and this is just adding more. Okay, so if I go and I look at this, I still have some of those attributes that I built before. So I have, let's see. Let's see, Orig PT. I have the tangent U. Where did I build? So let's see. I actually built my orient here. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to scoot. Let's see. So this is my tangent frame. So that's tangent U. And actually what I can do, so I'm getting my normal here from my object. This is grabbing the normal. This is, I believe this is generating my orient, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's generating the orient. So let's label this make orient. And this is seed group. And this is, yeah, P-scale noise. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to modify the position of these guys based on the normal. I think I have a normal in here. Yeah, so I still have that normal. So what I can do is I'm just going to take their position and push it out along the normal. Okay, so let's see. That's going to be here. It's P-scale noise. And over here. And I'm going to say, do an attribute expression. Plug this in here. And so I'm going to say, I want to modify my position. And I'm going to take that position and I'm going to say self plus at in. So we should see this thing explode because it's all moved. They're all moving out along that normal. Now I don't want them to move that far along the normal. If I come in here and I view my normals, so if we look here, so they're all pointing away, and each one of these points is going to move along that normal as I do that. So bang, like that. So that's too much. I don't want it to move that much. So I can do at in, I'm going to say times ch, so that stands for channel, chf, and I'm going to call this lift. So now I can choose to push these guys off the surface a bit. So I can have them float just above the skin so we can see them. Let's lift. Right, cool. So there's that. And so that is now going to go into my attributes from pieces. And I think this should also go into my swoop and my switch. So this guy, should go into here, and you should go into here. Oh, I need that color as well. I need that color to come down into here. What do I have turned on? Yeah, let's turn that off. So I think my P scale and stuff is interfering with this guy. So let's go and let's just delete those attributes before it comes in here. Attribute delete. So my point attributes. I want to delete the normal. I want to delete cost. I want to delete, I don't think I even need curve view at this point. I'm gonna delete orient because this is just for for rendering. Don't need orient. Don't need original point. Oh wait, I do need cost because that's what's determining where my color is coming from. So I do need that. I need my curve view. So there's my color back. And so I'm getting like this kind of waviness, and I actually kind of like that. That's coming from, I believe that's coming from my P scale. So if I get rid of my P scale, these should go back to being just kind of tubes. Yeah, okay, cool. So now these guys shouldn't be so stuck onto the surface. I should be able to see them a little bit better. And let's switch over to yeah, there we go. So see how they're not sitting directly on the surface anymore. So now you can see them just a little bit better. Every little bit counts when you're doing this much stuff. Fantastic. All right, cool. So let's save this. Okay, what now? What do I want to do now? About a half an hour left. I think I want to do like maybe like some grass, some big, like some really tall grasses, because some like bundles of like really, really, really tall grass. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. So to do that, actually, let's do some cleanup real quick. I don't need, these are my twigs. This is my kind of old setup here. This is some old stuff here. So let's get rid of all this because this is just taking up room. Okay, so I'm basically just gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna make some really tall reeds that are like kind of in like little bundles. So to do that, I'm gonna start out with a line. I'm just gonna do another line. Actually, what I'll do is I'll duplicate this whole setup. I'll hold down Alt, scoot this over here. And I'm going to make this setup like a really tall kind of reed. So this, I'll take this line. And reeds are actually quite tall. They're almost about 5 feet tall. So I'm going to bring my length overall up a bit. Like that. And I think what I want, in my sweep, I'm gonna control this in my sweep. So I'm just gonna bypass this guy real quick. And for my sweep, I'm gonna go the opposite. So I want like a fat end here. And I want a thin middle. And to pull this off, I think I'm going to need more points. I am going to need more points for this. So this reed is not going to be bent as much as the other ones. And the color is going to be a little bit different. So my color, it's going to be mostly brown at the ends. This is going to be I'm going to make this go really saturated, really dark in the middle. Love playing with color ramps. So much fun. Okay, so that's going to be my reed. And I'm just going to make a bundle of these, like 4 or 5. So I'm going to take... So I'm going to scatter on top of a scatter, which is crazy, right? So I'm going to take, and I'm going to make a disc, or a sphere, or not a sphere, a circle. I'll put that on the ground. I'll make this base of this pretty small, and I'm just going to scatter like 5 points on here. I might be able to get away with that scatter in a line. Let's try that again. Scatter a line. Drop that on. And let's do, not my size, my number of points. I want 5 points total. And this makes a orient attribute for me. So if I come down into here, it's going to be that. So my orient is already on. Yeah, my orient is on. So this guy's facing the wrong direction. So let's make this a polygon. And let's reverse this. There we go. I can give it a little bit of a cone angle. And we'll copy this guy to those points. And don't want it to make a p-scale. Yeah, so now I just have like kind of like this bundle of reeds that I can scatter throughout as well. So I think I want those to be a little bit longer. Maybe just a few more. Let's do, not that many. Let's do 8. Yeah. So this is like my little reed bundle. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to use all these points. Do I want to use all those points? I do want to use all those points. No, I'm just going to do another scatter. Because I want these to be far, far less. So where's my ground? My ground is here. Yeah, so I'll just take and I'm gonna copy, let's do a scatter on my ground. And I want these to be far less dense. And I need to clear that color, so I'm gonna say attribute delete. And I'm gonna remove the color because I don't want that to override. And I only want a few of these. And I'm going to turn off my relax iterations as well, so I get some bunching. let's do copy the points. So I have like these reads that are kind of populated throughout. And I can steal. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna steal my make orient here, because this is pretty simple. So I'm gonna steal that. C and Control B. Plug that in. So that's gonna orient them in all these different directions. And then I'm also going to do an attribute noise for P-scale. And so you can see, like, this is the same, it's the same tricks over and over and over again. I'm just like, it's layering on top of layering on top of layering on top of layering. So we're going to do an attributes noise. And this is going to be P-scale. Some little ones, some big ones. Right. So we can just merge this in as well. Ooh, ooh. Why Houdini? Crash it at least once a day. Yeah, sure. Send a crash report. Always remember to save early and save often. I think I lost my reads, but that's okay. So let's see if it saved me. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Let's see, open crash file. Let's see, what was I? That happened at 8:42. Yeah, yes, please. Now, in general, I think my graph is getting a little bit too big. I should start to like break this out into its own kind of like sections, into its own objects, so it doesn't have to keep recalculating this entire graph to get down to where I want it to be. Are my reads in here? Did they make it? Yeah, they're in there. All right, so I'm gonna save this file. Save as. So we'll call this vines. Oh, 2. So now looking over, like if we get down to like human level, we can kind of see these taller bits kind of poking out. So maybe I can do a few more of those. I feel like maybe they're a little bit too sparse. So maybe like 300. Yeah, cool. And I think their overall thickness needs to be just a little bit bigger, because I have it like at like grass width. So So I'm just going to take this, make it just bigger overall. Oh, that's too big. Now the cool thing about this is that I'm using like this very, very simple geometry, and we're getting a lot out of it. But if let's say you had a hero shot and you really needed to see like these reeds, really need to see the detail, you can do that. Like you can you can just replace this geometry with something a little bit more more detailed. Now that's going to come at a cost of your computation, but like if you have some hero reads, you can take this whole section and say, all right, I want some hero reads like right in front of the camera, which is really, really cool. And I think I made them a little bit too thick now. So back and forth on. Yeah, so now I have some reads in here. Let's see, what else can I do? I got about 10 minutes left. Let's see, what can I do? What else can I do? What can I do in 10 minutes? Let's... I'm at actually a pretty good stopping point right now. Let's see. What can I do with this? So I got my grass, got some reeds. I could try to scatter some bigger rocks around this guy as well. So what I want, I think eventually what I'm gonna have is I'm gonna have a shot that's kind of like this. So like I said, I'm kind of winging this. So I'm gonna have like a low angle shot. So like this becomes my horizon, so I don't have to have grass off forever, right? So I can cut that grass off there, and I kind of want like a tree line behind there, and then I want some bigger rocks kind of scattered throughout. RT16 is asking if I enjoy modeling characters or environments. That's a hard question. Traditionally, I really like. I was a creature guy for forever. But yeah, I love modeling creatures, right? But there's just so many creatures out there, and I'm really enjoying. I kind of found the power of Houdini, and I've like fallen down this rabbit hole. And Houdini is really, really good for this type of stuff. So I've just been kind of doing like little mini environments lately, just trying to get better at doing environments, because I was actually pretty good at doing characters. If you go back and you look at some of my earlier streams, I did like this robot called Cortex. That took me about a couple months because I only work on this stuff during the streams. So I have about 2 hours a week to work on it. So the stuff usually goes pretty slow. And I really enjoy doing that. I really enjoy doing this. It just depends on how I'm feeling, to be completely honest. I don't like to pigeonhole myself too much into one thing or the other. So you can tell when modelers start to get tired, you start to spin around your model and stop working on it. Let's see, what else can I do to this? What else can I bring in to this equation? Yeah, I will build those rocks, or at least some proxies for the rocks. It's either that or I start splitting this up. Yeah, we'll build some proxies for the rocks, so I can show you how this part responds. So what I'm going to do is, so I want some rocks that go like about like right there. Like they go like around this thing, like that. So I'm going to start with just a curve. I'm just going to draw where I want these rocks to go. So I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to drop down a curve. Actually, no, not a curve. I'm going to say draw curve. And let's see. I want the curve. I want the projection to be on the XZ plane. And I want to see where that head is. So that is going to be, it's my handy dandy head right here. I think I want to see where my ground is as well. Cool. So I'm going to take my curve, I'm going to press enter, and this is just going to allow me to draw a curve. So I want my rocks to be something like that. So what this draw curve does, oh, nope. Maybe that could be a little happy accident. Maybe some here, some here, some there, some there. So what this draw curve does, it tries to approximate, get as close as it can to your strokes. So to minimize this, or to kind of take away some of those points, I'm going to say, let's see, let's give me a resample. And I'm going to say maximum segments. So that'll give me 10 rocks per segment. And let's actually, I don't want that many rocks, just a few. Maybe I'll do maximum segment length. Yeah, I think the segment length is going to work better because I have like these really short lines. Cool. So now what I can do is I'm just going to make a box. I'm going to make that box about the size that I want it. So I want these to be pretty large. Kind of like Stonehenge-ish looking. About like that. And I want to make sure that my center is always half of my size. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to say paste relative reference. Oh, getting tired. Getting tired, guys. Paste relative reference, and then times 0.5. So always be on the ground. Okay, cool. So I'm going to, let's steal. I'm going to steal that make orient again. I'm going to use, that's the great thing about this. If you figure out one thing, you can just keep using it over and over. Control C and Control V. I'm going to plug that into there. So that should give me an orient attribute. Where is it? Orient. And yep, there they are. Cool. And so I can also do a attribute noise. That is p-scale. And I can do a copy to points. So now I have kind of like these random rocks scattered around. And I can, maybe that's too many? I don't know. I don't know. So now I'll probably kind of beat these up and actually maybe I can go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and just put some chutzpah on them. So let's do that. I'm gonna do a divide, and I'm just gonna do what's called a bricker on these guys. So let's turn that off. Turn triangular off, and I'm going to turn on bricker polygons. So that just gives me like this nice even slice of everything. So that'll plug in there. So I got these guys. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to soften them up a little bit. So that's going to be a blur. So attribute blur. So it just softens the P, so it blurs the P, so they're a little bit softer, they're not so cube-like. And the last thing I'll do is I'll do an attribute noise, and I'll put that on P, and I'll just kind of beat all of them up in kind of regular fashion. So attribute noise. And that's going to be P. So I don't have that much geometry to work with. I just kind of want to make them not look so super uniform. Cool. And then I'll throw a facet to compute my normals. Sweet, so I got like kind of like this Stonehenge-y looking thing. And maybe I'll just transform this down. Just push these down into the ground a little bit. So those are my stones. Same ideas. Same idea over and over again. So I'm making like this weird kind of like druid druid-esque druid-esque kind of scene here. So what I can do is I can take that, save this, and I can merge that in as well. Let's do here and Alt and click. That should give me a merge. To get something like that. Now, if I want this kind of action around these guys, that's super simple. I can take, I'm going to say, put a null here, and it'll be the last thing I do today. Call this out stones. Not snones, stones. And I usually don't do this, but this might work. So I'm going to come into here. So in your merge, I usually only merge one thing. So what I can do is I can just add another entry in here. And I can go all the way to the top here, and I should see out stones, accept. So that should give me all my stones, and that, if I've done this correctly, should affect the grass around them. Because this is now, these two things are now pretty much the same object. Yeah, there we go. So it's starting to get more and more dynamic now. So just adding that little bit in. So now I'm getting, so let's turn off our grid and let's turn off visualization. Yeah, so now I'm getting like kind of like these bunches of grass around these stones. So yeah, it's coming along. Little scene coming along. Wasn't really expecting to do this, but it's looking good. I'm super excited about this. So I'll maybe get a tree line back in here and set up a shot, and then maybe also have some secondary or tertiary vegetation that'll pop up. So I'll basically invert the density for my grass. So wherever my grass is thin, I'll get some other kind of like bigger plants that kind of scoot and sit in there. Cool. Yeah, so I'm making like this kind of crushed druid kind of fallen god type of thing. Yeah, so that's my stream for today. Didn't quite get as far as I wanted to. 2 hours goes by so fast. Had a little bit of trouble with the density, the logic of the density. So it wasn't Houdini doing anything weird. It was me. It was it was definitely all me. But yeah, this is looking really cool. I'm liking where this is going, and I could even put I could even use this tactic on these stones to kind of like bring it all together. Like all this stuff is kind of equally old as well. I could also do a little bit more work on these stones. I really just threw them in there really quickly. But for 5 minutes, that's not too bad. Looks pretty good. All right, so that's the stream for today. Next week I am taking a break. You will have a brand new streamer. He will be doing some ZBrush work. He's one of our concept artists. And it will be at a new time, so stay tuned to the channel. Go to cgspectrum.com/3D-modeling for all your modeling needs and for the schedule of next week. I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Stay safe, drink water, wash your hands, and keep it breezy. I will see you guys on the flip side. Take it easy. Peace.